In this video, we're going to show you how to install the rear trunk hatch of the Model 3 Legacy. So we're going to go ahead and start with the bottom portion and then work our way to the top part. But before we get started, we're going to do our last bit of contamination control. And what you want to do is you're just spraying a bunch of slip solution and then going to go ahead and just get it all down, right? So if there's anything that is sitting on the surface of this, it's basically going to come off, and you're just making sure that everything is completely off before we get started. So now let's go ahead and spray this down. And just for context, I've already hydrated the piece for the bottom over there, and there's a table. I like using a big table, hydrating it, and then bringing it over. So that's exactly what I'm going to be doing. All right, so I got my piece right here, and if you notice, this one has the T cut out like so. So very, very simple right here. If you don't have the T cut out, you can ignore it completely. And it doesn't really matter for this one. It will be the same for both T cut out and no T cut out. Okay, so that makes it much simpler for whichever one you have. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and make sure we're hydrating the top layer. And then we have the squeegee right here, and all you're focusing on, guys, is making sure this T is basically even, but you're also going to look right here and just making sure everything is working. Okay, so just looking at it one more time. Awesome. So if you look right here, there's a little flap, roughly about, I would say it's less than a centimeter really, or a quarter of an inch, and that's how much you're going to leave behind. All right, so we're going to go ahead and spray some tack right here. Make sure you flush the slip out, because essentially tack is that. You're basically flushing the slip solution, and that's how it becomes tack. Okay, so as you go up right here, I'm going to go ahead and squeegee all of this, and then what you're going to do is you're going to create basically a small little area right here. You're just going to pull just gently, and you're going to get that in place, like so. And then once I have this corner anchored and this anchored, you can just pull this back to kind of align it how you need it to, and then basically get all of this edge just perfect. Okay, and then you can work your way up. And the goal is kind of get all this side done. Okay. And look at that perfect alignment all the way around. Now that we have this done, we can go ahead and move on to the other side. And again, if you have the logo, just keep that in mind whenever you're moving into this. But you are going to have to stretch just a tiny bit into here, just like that. Okay? So you can see the logo fit perfectly, but once I let go, it'll be actually even better. Same alignment point right here, so you're going to start at the bottom. Make sure you flush that all out. Okay, this didn't quite stick. I'm going to hold this down just a little bit. There you go. And I'm going to do the same thing right here. Oh. Okay, I'm going to do the same thing I did earlier. I'm basically going to just follow this line. This kind of got messed up, but it's okay. the goal is to get this inner part right here completely aligned. This is good. And then you can work your way up once you have that down. All right, so perfect. Next, you can see if you did that correctly, look at this alignment point. It's perfect because this was stretched a little bit. There's a couple area that's wanting to kind of come up. That's no problem. You see some of those bigger bubbles? You can totally get rid of that. So because we stretched it across evenly, you can see that there's no fingers whatsoever, and that's exactly what we want. So next, if you have to, put slip solution from the top so it comes back down, but I'm pretty good. It hasn't taken that long. So I'm gonna go ahead. You could go either up or you could go down. And you're just looking at this alignment point right here. Right here, this is perfect. Okay, you can see some of the moisture once it could go back that way. Well, you can't go back that way because you just tacked it. So you can see I can bring it all the way down to this lip, and then you could go straight up. Great. And then, of course, this part is pretty self-explanatory, but you want to get rid of all of this. And just work your way down. I'm going to do a double take now that goes all the way. All right, be careful when you're around the logo. Just be a little bit more gentler. That's a word. Is that a word? More gentle. And then basically just get it out of there. All right, we got a big wrinkle right here. Just spray some tack, and it's gone. Awesome. So the next step here, guys, we've got the bottom. That was pretty smooth. What you want to do is make sure you spray the top edge. Because when you do that, we are going to connect the other piece to there, and you just want to make sure that it's completely adhered, and it's not going to shift at all when we're trying to seam the two together. Okay? All right, so I'm going to go ahead and grab the next part. But before we do, let's go ahead and hydrate the top layer. And same thing that we did on the bottom, we're going to go ahead and just clean it up just a little bit. Again, this is your last line of defense, where you're basically just making sure that you're getting rid of all of the contamination that might exist. All right, next, let's go grab this real quick. There's not an easy way to grab this, but the easiest that I found is to basically just hold the flaps like right here, and then kind of fold it, and then do your best to kind of just lay it as flat as you can. So, and then hydrating it prior to actually transferring it to the car. If you do that, you'll save a lot of pain, okay? We're gonna go ahead and work our way to this side first. And the alignment goes right to the edge like so. Okay, so that alignment is pretty self-explanatory, I think. Okay, I'm going to tiptoe because we have it on the left. But hopefully you guys can see better than I can. Okay, there you go. Notice I'm just doing about 1 inch. And it's important that you go a little bit inside for this part. Okay, so about 1 inch of that edge right here. And then you're going to just pull it down like so. And this is the alignment point right here. Okay, so it's kind of this little corner right here kind of goes right in there. Okay, so let's go ahead and spray some tack. Great. Awesome. So then once this is good, honestly, you could just kind of focus your way into the next seam, which is going to be on the other side. But my focus is all up right here. So that's really it. So you can kind of hold it down. You can move it up, right? And then we do need to use some tack. But for now, let's go ahead and see if we can move the other side. All right? So let's go ahead and do this. Okay. So same thing on this side. Just going to line it right here. All right, so here's the 1-2 inches, and then same thing here, guys. And fold it out. Man, that is perfect. All right, so now can really focus on getting this bottom part right here. And then just moving this kind of into place. Making sure it's not overlapping anything, guys. That is so important when you're seaming. Doesn't look that good when you do that. But that is fantastic. All right, so now that we have this done, it should fit a little bit better in the sense the distribution of the stretch is actually almost perfect, okay? So next, we're gonna go ahead and just focus on seaming the middle, because once you seam, you already seamed the side. This one came out, so I'm gonna go ahead and fold this down again. So just check that side before you kind of proceed. I'm gonna go ahead and just spray some more tack. Just make sure I have it all completely done. So get this away. There you go. That's a little bit cleaner. I went all the way. Now we do the middle right here. So I'm going to go ahead and spray some tack, maybe a little bit more. And then look at this. I can bring this down and meet it where it needs to meet, which is right here. And once I have it exactly where I need to be, I can just tack it down. If that wasn't it, I can let it go. Remember when I said it's so important to have it where you need it to be? This is why. Because, I mean, what I mean by that, sorry, is that if this right now, like I literally did this within a minute. So typically what you want to do is you want to let this sit for maybe at least 15 minutes, I think. And then maybe do the license plate and then go back to this, because right now what's happening is this hasn't fully adhered yet, and I'm basically putting back slip solution all up in there while I'm doing this, so that's causing some issues. So what I'm going to do is spray some tack down the middle, and I'm going to do the same thing and just try to tack this right here. So very little tension, and then look at that. So I got this middle down. Oh yeah, and this nice little seam that you see right here is perfect. Okay, so now that we have this done, the rest should align fairly easily. And this is where you can work on one side or the other first. But all of these seams is basically going to just line up, because you did the center and you just kind of push it, you can move this top part up and down, and that's how it seams. But right now, because I've got this anchored right here in the middle and then all the way here, it's actually fitting exactly how I need to fit it. Yep, that's what I meant by it kind of messing up. All right, so now that you have all of this, you can start moving this water all around. And the main thing is I just tacked all this area, right? I mean, I'm gonna have to get all this out. But you can go up. You're just kind of transitioning, you're just moving all this out of here. I can't go back here because I just did tack that. and then you can go out this way. This is the safest way to exit because gravity is bringing that down anyway. All right, awesome. So same thing on this side, guys. I've already done. This is the beauty about this, the way we did this, is if it's been a long time, you could still hydrate this by going from the bottom or the top, or honestly still here, right? Because we've only tacked these two right here. So we have plenty of exit points right now, but like I said, this is still seaming really well. So let's go ahead and tack this down, all up in there. It's gonna go ahead and work my way. All right, so I'm pretty happy with that seam. And then you just kind of work your way with at least 50% overlaps. And then you can work your way all the way out here. And then okay. This is bound to happen just because the stretch and that curvature right here, it's a natural tension right there. Just hold this down with one hand. And then you should be able to get that down, just like so. All right, so at this point, you're just gonna verify, right, your seam. And just make sure, if you have water, just straight up distilled water, that would also help right here. But certain parts right here didn't quite fit. So I'm gonna go ahead and get all the edges first. And you've probably heard me say a lot of the bubbles love to live in edges. So this is kind of what I'm doing first. And then after that, I can kind of fold it in. There you go. That's far better. I'm gonna tell you right now, if you just do this after this is dried for at least 15 minutes, it's gonna save you a lot of time later. Because you can see right here, all that water wants to enter back into the bottom piece, and that's kind of why I was mentioning that. Okay, but basically you just flush all this out, making sure all the seam is good. Okay, I got some of this. All right, and then I got some minor kind of getting rid of that. And if that still happens, you could kind of hold this down. And like I said, there's a lot of water that loves to hold. There's a seal right there, and it's actually going to go past that when we open the trunk, and that's exactly what we're going to do. So go ahead and go all the way up, and then once we're done, this is going to take some time, but part of the reason why I'm not finishing this is I really should have waited a little bit longer for this to not completely dry, but dry a little bit more, because I keep having this issue. So honestly, I could deal with this a little later. But for the most part, the seam looks really good. Like that's the seam right there, right here. Just make sure it's not overlapping like that. That looks really good. And this is another tip. If it's like on top of each other, you could kind of use your finger to kind of dislodge it like that. And just keep going. So yeah, there you go. And then all the way through. Awesome. So once you're done, we're going to go ahead and open it. And what you're going to do is you're going to let this sit like all the way up for at least an hour or two, I think. And then before you do, you're going to go ahead and spray down all the edges. And what this does is it cleans that edges so that later on you could actually fold it over. So I know that I'm going to assume that it's already been a couple hours, and I'm just going to show you how this will look like. So just for video purposes, what I'm going to do is I'm going to just try to wipe this down, some of the moisture. So if you have some of the moisture is gone, one thing you could do is basically just fold this over like so. Right now there's still a lot of moisture. It's coming down and it wants to just kind of sit right there. So it's going to be hard for this to be sticky, but once it completely dries off, it does get a lot sticky. And you do the same thing for this one. And then folding over edges is going to be far easier. One huge warning is you definitely want to clean the inner parts before you get started. We're actually gonna, we did this for our R&D, so we definitely should have done a little bit better job if you see that. But that's how you install the rear trunk hatch of the Model 3.